Welcome, everyone, to Awesome Truth, a wrestling book club. I'm your host, Steve Semino, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Walt Schwenk. Hey, Walters.
Hello, Steven. How's it going?
My friend, it is going very well. We are back on Awesome Truth, and it's our 200th episode, Walt. Very exciting. The big 200, breaking off another hundo.
Yeah, I forgot that's why we decided to do this particular episode because of the milestone. But I'm more excited about the episode than the milestone. But
It
yeah,
was just the one we sort of had it in our repertoire in our back pocket for a long time, and it was just a little more technically complicated than others, as the Macho Man one was. So we're like, let's hold it for a special one, right? And this is a special one.
yeah. So 7 years and six or
Yeah,
7 years,
is that
and
right?
every
I wonder
other.
when our first episode even was. Let me look that up. Should have known that
I guess
before.
in theory, it'd be 8 years because it's
Uh,
25 a year times.
2017, June 20th, 2017.
Okay, so then we
Almost
record
eight
more than
years.
25 a year. Okay, so that makes sense.
Wow. Almost 8 years. Yeah, because we've technically done more than 200 episodes, but some of them have been bonus episodes, which is sort of an arbitrary system we set up where
We only had the one bonus, I think, right?
no, we had 4 bonuses, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Bonuses just meaning not coming out on the typical schedule.
This could have been just episodes. What were we thinking? Why are they bonuses?
I like doing the official. I like having the official numbering system to show our consistency. Like we only missed the one. We did one rerun because I had a baby and you were busy, and otherwise we've hit every other week since 2017. Yeah. So it's pretty great.
Consistency is key, and let us have our victory lap for.
Sure. That's right. And of course, that victory lap, as we hinted at, and as you can see from the title of the episode, is WrestleMania the album. It was a 1993 album released by record companies, real record companies, RCA Records. It was made in the UK. They were super enthusiastic because of the Wembley sellout. Well, because of the Brett Bulldog showdown, wow. They got the idea in the UK. Whoa, this wrestling thing is huge. Oh my god! And then their next thought was, we need to make an album about wrestling, which is strange because a lot of wrestlers are not singers.
Yeah, that's so strange. That last sentence. But I do have to confess that when we first pitched this, because I'd never heard this before, and I thought when you're talking about the WrestleMania album, I thought it was the one from the 80s where the original Hulk Hogan theme came from.
Yeah, the one with Real American, right?
Oh, Eat Your Heart Out. Speaking of Eat Your Heart
Out. Before it was the Hogan theme, when it was Wyndham and Rotunda.
Yeah.
Of course, the U.S. Express, right?
Exactly, yes.
Which is crazy. I don't know what that one's called. We can probably find that out pretty easily.
I think it's just called like WWF music or album. I can't remember. The second one,
it looks like it was called the Wrestling Album, I believe.
yeah, right.
Because the second one was called Pile Drive. Yeah, it was called the Wrestling Album. And the second one is called Pile Driver, the Wrestling Album, too.
Right. So admittedly, when I found this online, I'm like, I believe this is the one because it has Bret Hart song and
which you've heard me talk about the Bret Hart song before, right? Or at least been like,
exactly.
The Bret Hart song is great.
Well, that's what triggered me to think like, oh wait, first off, there's more than one of these things that were produced, and also like, this is the one that I believe we're all talking about is the one from the 90s.
And in looking at the other ones, I don't think like there was like Hillbilly Jim. Vince did Stand Back. You've seen Vince do Stand Back, right? It's a song that Vince performs on stage where he's like yelling and dancing around. You've probably seen that clip before.
I've seen that clip, yes.
Yeah, that's Vince's song. Vince sings that song.
Cool.
Which is on Pile Driver Wrestling the album too. So the wrestlers did all sing before, but I would say they didn't do it in this way. Like this is like, this is the first of those albums that is not just like rock. Like in the 80s, and there's a little like it's like 80s rock, obviously, so it's a little hair bandy and stuff, and like there's some ballady, like, but it's just it's rock and roll music, I would say, more easily classified in that sense. This is heavily 90s. This is like has synthesized even more synthesizers, but like synthesizers in like in a poppier sort of way. Like I think it feels glossier. There's nothing about it that feels like heavy, or it's all like playful 90s new generation bullshit.
Yeah, it's like if MC Hammer created
Yes.
a wrestling album, this is exactly what it would sound
Oh,
like.
and I have the Undertaker song is very reminiscent of the Adams Family MC Hammer song. I believe it's called Adams Groove. Are you familiar with Adams Groove, Walt?
Is that the
It's
Oop, the
the
Adams
theme from the
Family?
first,
There it
yeah, it's the theme
is.
from the first Adams Family movie
Yeah,
by MC
great. Of
Hammer.
course.
And I feel
Yeah.
like Man in Black is borrowing from that and from like Prince Batman songs, you know. So there's a lot of influences from that era for sure, and it's a lot of it's sort of like a copy paste pastiche of a whole bunch of other stuff that they mush together, and then they have wrestlers, you know, talk sing over music.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I mean, this isn't going to sound like that interesting to say out loud, but it's like this thing is purely a 90s cultural piece of history. Like, in a sense that, like, and you'll hear like the inner kid in me come out a lot because there's a lot of the stuff that like is reminiscent of like things I've heard in like Streets of Rage. Like you have like that Sega kind of like synth, like street beats almost that like it just permeated throughout all of the early 90s and like not just wrestling and not just wrestling albums and like modern music, nightclub music, like like this jock jams. It's like it's 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 like video games, like, you know, I could keep going, but like it's
Yeah,
just like
it's
that is a through line that permeates and is like the cornerstone of this entire musical piece or
yes.
pieces.
And after this, you know, they would release like the next album under the WWF banner is Full Metal, the album. Do you remember Full Metal, the album?
Is that the one with like the Disturbed Austin song?
No, that's later. That's like when they start doing that. This is the beginning of. It's just the reason. It's the beginning of them putting themes on albums. You know, which I
Mm.
think is the one of the weirder things about this one too, is because the '80s they had real music and some of them became themes and some of them were just songs. This is just purely some of these things. Some of these the tracks on here sample themes or could use elements of themes, but like almost all of them are just songs by the wrestler. Some of them relevant to their characters, some of them barely relevant to their characters. But it's this weird period where they're not even trying to pretend like these are themes, you know. Whereas in the future, that's almost all what they do. Is like they start releasing WF the music volume, whatever, you know, and it's just here's the theme, and it's just such an interesting decision to be like, no, we're not going to do their theme songs. We're not going to release the tracks everyone wants to hear. We're just going to make them sing other songs that no one knows or cares about or likes.
And it's one thing too to be like, okay, because like eventually the obviously the evolution of themes becomes like this is actual music now, whereas back in like the former days of WWF, it was like this is like a guitar riff that is now like synonymous with your theme. But the thing is, it's like there were themes back then too. It's like Boss Man had an actual theme. Like
Yeah,
I understand remixing Mr. Perfect or Macho Man's music because they were kind of just like
classical style tracks, like, you know.
instrumental. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And like, but Boss Man had a theme with lyrics. It's like, but now we're just getting a different version of it. Like, oh, like I'm not exactly sure what the methodology is here, but
Yeah, it's very weird and fascinating. Simon Cowell is involved in the production of this one. He was like
wow.
the main guy behind it. He was the EP. He was really into it, and he was one of the ones who, and apparently people begged him not to do it because wrestling in those days, I think, seen as sort of embarrassing and lower class, you know. So I think they were like, this is going to be a joke. This is not going to be because
Well,
Simon
guess
Cowell.
what?
Yeah, they were
It was a
exactly
show.
right. But I think Simon Cowell, I think he wanted to, like, for some reason, I think he was one of the people behind it who wanted to make it real music. So for whatever reason, he seems very into it. And this did reach number 10 in the UK. So they were right in the sense that there was wrestling fever in the UK and it did extend to albums. It did not even chart on the Billboard 200 of the United States. So, but I had this album when I was a kid. I had this cassette, and that's the reason I really wanted to do it. Is I was
Mm.
obsessed with it. I listened to it 500 times. I know some of these songs by heart. And so this to me was right when I started getting into wrestling and perfect for like an 8-year-old who just like loves like because the songs are explicitly for children, but they are dumb and stupid. And so I think that has a very strong appeal to a dumb, stupid kid.
Sure. I mean, this, yeah, that is the target audience is dumb, stupid kids. I'm surprised also like hearing about the UK influence and stuff. It's like, I mean, very interesting to hear Simon Cowell really wanted to do this. That's very interesting. Um, probably something he doesn't want being repeated on the X Factor, or I guess.
No, now that he's 100 millionaire or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, you were responsible for that weird wrestling album in the '90s. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Don't think so. Doesn't sound like me.
No, nope. But I'm surprised Bulldog didn't get like a track on
Yeah,
here.
maybe because he was in WCW at this point. Because I know he was there. I know he was there for a chunk of the early '90s. So maybe this was during that one of those periods because he was involved in that like whole. I'm thinking of like the Beach Blast thing because I know he did that and he did that Baywatch episode, didn't he? So like he was. I know he was over there for a second, and it could have overlapped with this recording this album because they recorded it in '92. They put it out in '93.
He
so.
is in this though. He's a voice. You'll hear him as one.
Oh,
of the
is he on
voices in
WrestleMania or Slam Jam? Oh, I think you're right. Actually, yeah. Shit. Well,
So he's in this. He just doesn't have his own song. And I feel like the UK, he was like very popular. I mean, he main evented SummerSlam that.
Yeah, and it sounds like that was the catalyst for everything. Well, I mean, it's not like you're going to cut the Crush track. So, I mean, maybe they were like, sorry, Bulldog, we got no room for you.
Sucking down some coconuts in Hawaii or whatever.
We will. I've never heard the Crush track. It's UK only for some reason. And we will not be listening to the Crush track today because I don't know what that is. And honestly, I don't want to know. So,
yeah, Hawaiian-born Crush is a UK exclusive track.
Kona Crush, his song Cold Crush. Sounds like it's terrible. We're skipping that one. We're actually skipping a lot of these. We're going to play a bunch of these along for you all. So if you don't know these, you're going to get a chunk of each one. But we're gonna play the ones. Basically, Walt and I sat down and said, okay, which one of these are good? And we picked the 6 that I think are undeniably good. You could make an argument for a few of the other ones. I wouldn't even because I think they're all pretty bad. I think these are the ones that stand the test of time, and coincidentally are the ones almost entirely, like, especially the 4 sung by wrestlers. The 4 of these 6, those are sung by the 4 best wrestlers on the album too. So they got the best songs.
Yeah, it's 1993, so there wasn't anyone else to sing these except for Bret Hart, who is my candidate for least likely and to do a musical piece. So.
And Bret gets the luxury of not even being asked to sing. Like Bret gets to talk the entire song, which is my dream as a person with a horrible voice. Too, if I was ever going to be a recording star, I would have to just talk the entire time. So Bret gets let off pretty easy.
Yeah, he doesn't actually get to sing. Yeah, I mean I
guess no one really sings. Does anyone sing on this whole thing? I don't think anybody really does, right? They all talk.
Yeah, this is all talk. Yeah,
which is very weird.
Repurposed promos and original talk singing lyrics.
It's wild. It's great. It's catchy as hell. I'm gonna really enjoy doing it. Walt, do you want to get started and play some of these songs for everybody?
Yeah. Do you want to cue up what the first one is?
So the first track is appropriately named. The album is called WrestleMania the Album, and the first song is called WrestleMania. You might know it as basically the background music is Linda McMahon's theme song. The Secretary of Education, fucking Linda McMahon. This is her. Yeah. This became her theme song. This is a way better version than that, though. So let's enjoy WrestleMania.
Already off to a great start saying Survivor Series.
There was a WrestleCrap article about this, and the first thing, of course, they say is, why did they mention Survivor Series in the first 2 seconds?
Simon Cowell really needs to bone up on his premium live events.
Yeah, see, this one, you probably know this part. Can you turn it up a tad, Walt?
Sure.
This is a great one, too. The first 2 songs are everybody on at once, so it's not just anybody. It's just a bunch of people talking. There's Hacksaw. We're not going to be listening to Hacksaw's full song, but...
Was Hacksaw even wrestling back then?
I think he was. I was thinking about it today. I think they just made him the USA guy because they lost Hogan. They're like, fuck, we need a USA guy. I guess it's Hacksaw.
Was Boss Man even around in '93?
I swear Boss Man went back and forth with WCW a ton too, right? So that's a good question. Yeah. Here we go, the chorus. I really can't help but sing along.
Yeah.
It's so good. All right, so that's WrestleMania. What do you think about WrestleMania, Walt?
Should I have it still playing underneath?
Yeah, put it on really quiet in the background. I'll try not to pay too.
Because it's funny because they use the Mean Gene Okerlund, who will survive.
Yeah,
it's like no one's dying at WrestleMania.
They all talk about in the Hacksaw song we're not going to listen to. He does a whole little spiel about, I'm gonna have a match tonight, and this guy seems real tough, and I'm real scared. Like they are definitely keeping up kayfabe on this. But like you said, the survive element, Survivor Series is not meant to be taken literally in any, even in kayfabe. There's no risk of perishing in Survivor Series.
Yeah,
it's about just making it through the match.
Yeah, it's just like the sporting event.
I think this is a great album opener. This is a very dumb, kitschy song. Like this is not one of the top tracks, I'd say. I think this is just very fun and easy and just gets you into the vibe of what's coming afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I will say though that obviously it's iconic just because it was used at an actual WrestleMania as the theme before it became just different iterations of Flow Rida's new album. You know what I mean? Like that. The WrestleMania 27 Flow Rida presents. It's like
or the weekend, of course. Don't leave out the weekend.
Yeah, can't forget about the weekend. But so I mean, obviously this one has stood the test of time outside of you telling me about the Bret Hart one for the last 3 decades. But
it's the most iconic music on here for sure.
Yeah. It's a banger. I mean,
it's pretty good. I don't dislike it at all. I might say it's number 6, maybe number 5.
Okay, fair. Well, I'm not going to argue with you because you've listened to this 5,000 more times than me.
It's fun. It's stupid. You get to hear everybody. So if you're into hearing all wrestlers talk singing, you get a chunk of everybody here.
Yeah, although there's really not talk singing here. It's more
it is
repurposed promos.
Yeah, it's 10 seconds of promo. It has there's no real thematic anything to it. Just talking about being wrestlers really more than anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And the next one is very similar to that. So this one is called Slam Jam. This was certified silver by the UK and reached number 4 on the UK charts.
Could you imagine the entire country listening to this?
Slam
in
Jam.
High volume.
Like you said, the Jock Jams comparison is really good for these first 2 songs in particular. These are very I feel like at least the early Jock Jams albums always had a titular sort of Jock Jam song that was basically a remix, mashup of several other songs. And I feel like this doesn't have the mashup quality, but it does have sort of the everything all together at once sort of general pump up vibe of those Jock Jams title tracks.
Yeah, I mean this was good. If this truly was a SummerSlam theme, which it wasn't.
No, this is not. That might have been the idea, but it does not. It's not even called Slam Jam. Doesn't even reference SummerSlam explicitly. It's just slamming. That could be anything.
Right, but I assumed it was I shouldn't make any assumptions. Actually,
yeah.
Why am I doing that?
But you're right. It seems like they're doing 2 songs for their 2 premiere events, right? To start us off.
To be fair, I am. So this was one of the tracks because we're using YouTube because why the hell would this be on Spotify?
This is not on Spotify, so I'm sorry. It's very depressing. This is not available there for some reason.
So it could be a false positive with because I'm looking at SummerSlam Jam, and to me, it was like a Mandela effect. I didn't even think twice about it. Of course it's a SummerSlam Jam. But
I thought it was called SummerSlam Jam too, but I'm looking. Everything else I've read tells me it's just called Slam Jam. So
fair enough. All right, so then this is just a non-specific track or music theme for slamming.
The idea of slamming for sure is there.
All right, let's cue this one up.
Let's do Slam Jam.
All right. This is it, right?
Yeah.
There it is. Okay.
Tony Schiavone on the air. Did you hear Tony Schiavone?
Yeah, I was going to say, friend of the show.
We are set to go. I wonder if he gets any residuals from that.
Yeah, from us listening to it once.
We're watching the video, too. This video is incredible.
Yeah.
Someone took the time to put together. This looks official. It looks like they made this in 92 or 93.
Well, they had the little Chiron saying RCA Records.
Yeah, it looks like a music they could in theory could have been on MTV.
Yeah. I mean, if this wasn't on MTV, then what the hell are we making this for? Oh my god,
this is great. See, Bret Hart's doing stuff.
Wow.
There's High Energy. There's Max Moon.
Whoa.
Showing a lot of guys. Oh, this has some. They're still not singing, but they're kind of. This is probably the most singing they do on the whole thing. There's Bulldog, but he's not there. Interesting. See that everyone else is there doing the fake singing, but not Bulldog.
I have to say that Undertaker with pair of headphones in a recording studio. Like the guy's like, I never broke kayfabe for like 40 years of my career. That broke kayfabe to me. I'm sorry, dude.
True. The idea that Undertaker, the dead wrestler human, is like, well, also, if I'll go record a track on my spare time.
I love how it's
say,
like
my theory, Bulldog is not in this. I think Bulldog might have recorded this and then left for WCW, but they couldn't take him out.
You don't see him actually recording it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think they couldn't get him for that part. They just, yeah. I'm sure they filmed the recording separate from the actual recording.
Right.
For the video, because they knew the video was going to be a hit.
I mean, is Slam Jam not just a different skin of the WrestleMania theme?
Yes, it is. It is the problem. But apparently, the UK audience listened to the two and said, we prefer Slam Jam. So
yeah, right. Yeah. How do you really have a preference? I mean, I would say this is arguably probably a better song.
They also have, and there's this like little rap part 2 minutes in too. Both of them have that exact thing. There's Sean. Yeah, they do 2 minutes of song and then they do like 30 seconds of rap part and then they cut back to we wrap it up. So
it's so
they have
hard
a very similar formula for sure.
It's so hard not to comment on the music video because it's incredible.
The music video is the best part. This is so great. Just a lot of back body drops.
Oh yeah,
everyone's doing back body.
I mean, if I didn't know any better, then I would assume that 1993 was an exciting time for this company
instead of the worst time for the company.
Yeah.
Well, that one's great. Slam Jam is really good. You're right. Slam Jam is better than WrestleMania, even though they're essentially the same thing. In some key ways, they're not.
Yeah. Also, complete aside, but Razor Ramon looks like $1 million.
Oh yeah, early '90s Scott Hall is looking real good. Huge.
Not a part of the album.
Another guy. I wish they could have got him in. He was around then too. It's stupid he wasn't on here. They could have done the Razor song would have been so much more appropriate than the Tatanka song.
Yeah, I mean,
which we will not be listening to the Tatanka song, by the way.
Yeah. So then, what is the next one in line?
So we start with those two, and then we get some bunch of ones we're going to skip. Or two we're going to skip, I guess. We get Hacksaw does USA. Hacksaw's one is fun, I guess, but it's terrible. And it's just catchy because it's Hacksaw going, USA, USA. But we're not listening to Hacksaw. I kind of think it's catchy, but it's not good.
Fair enough. Yeah,
and then
it's definitely bad.
That is very bad. And then there's the Nasty Boy Stomp, which really sounds like a Janet Jackson song to the point where Wikipedia cites like they may have just lifted this straight from other Janet Jackson songs, which is not great. And really certainly is at least heavily inspired by, late 80s, early 90s Janet Jackson. We're not listening to that too because the Nasty Boys are terrible and we don't need to hear that song. But what do you think about the Nasty Boys song?
It was, I think that sums it up. This is Janet Jackson's music only with the Nasty Boys talking over.
Yes. And no one needs to hear anything about the Nasty Boys, so we can skip right over that. But the fifth one is, I think, the most famous one, the one I talk about the most, the one that I would say shows up on social media or has in my lifetime every now and then because it's so wild. And that's Bret Hart's song, which has never been a right time to say goodbye. Let's cue it up and just listen to it while we talk. But it is so different than the other songs on this in a great way, I think, because it's not about wrestling at all. It's about sadness and love and heartbreak. And Bret like again doesn't sing, but he talks like it's a whole song. Now we're getting into like each wrestler having their own song, So it's just they just put Bret out there and they say, "Go, Bret."
There's no way to make this easy.
I need to listen to this again.
There's never been a right time.
Yeah, turn this up a tad, Walt. At least we can get to the chorus. The chorus is great.
But if I stay, she'll only see right through me.
He's talking with emotion now, He's trying to put the right level into his words.
So I'd rather turn away.
I can't help. I'll wait for the chorus, but
the chorus is funny too because the chorus is somewhat triumphant, which doesn't really go with the rest of the song. At least triumphant musically,
All right.
Okay. Also, very funny given that Bret Hart's in his book Hitman, which we love, discusses his infidelity in great detail.
Okay,
So,
I'm glad you brought this up because that's all I can think of this song. It's like, is this the sing talk? Are these the lines he used to give his wife and children every time he leave for months at a time?
or is this like a confession of sorts? You know, like I have a burdened soul and I'm gonna sort of unleash a little bit of it on this song.
Okay.
And they're like, no, it's the song they made me sing. Or it's like, did they make you sing this, Brett, or did they ask you to point them in a direction and you gave them somewhere to go?
Well, but also too, like, I mean, that's might be giving this too much credit. My follow-up question to all this is like, why would you give Bret Hart a heartbreak song when you have the Heartbreak Kid?
Yes.
As in your roster? Because Bret Hart, his so parts of his persona are relative to like Hart, but not really. He's not like, he's the excellence of execution. He's not like this heartthrob, like.
And at this point, his gimmick was basically white meat babyface champion. You know, good wrestler. Like, that was basically his gimmick.
He wasn't. Yeah, he didn't like. He wasn't like kissing female fans in the audience and like blowing kisses at them. Like that wasn't his like thing at all.
The heart element was really just like his name is Heart, and his gear would have hearts on it, but that wasn't really anything beside that, you know, that really tied into a heart thing. Like you said, Shawn Michaels' whole thing was and Shawn Michaels would go on to very soon after this sing his own theme song. So like, really they could have put that on this. They could have just picked that. I know that came a little later, but you put that on here and you're good. You know, that's a song right there. It's a free song.
Also, he sang it.
Yeah,
he sort of, but
more than these guys sang for sure.
Right.
Well, I will say I love that song. It's so weird. It makes, like you said, it makes no sense, but it's great. And it's just, I love that. Like before this, you're getting like the two combo songs of everybody. Hacksaws and Nasty Boys are certainly like uplifting beats. And then all of a sudden this Brett ballad comes out of nowhere and smacks you in the face. And you're like, this is their biggest star, their babyface champion. And he's singing a song about like leaving his partner and like how hard that is.
His wife,
yes. It's great. But you like the Brett song, right? That's a win.
Yeah, it's a win.
It's catchy as hell, I think, too.
I enjoy it. I mean, it's ballady. It's ballady, which is like it reminds me of like 90s sitcom jingles almost, like in some weird way. I can't explain it even, but like like
the music is very much that type of music, you know? Like the music, like I said, the music does not really go with the substance of the song, the lyrics at all.
Yeah, right. But I mean, like, yeah, this whole thing is a vibe.
Yeah, it's a lot. And it does. If you we'll listen to a bunch more of these songs. Nothing else goes with the Brett stuff either. You know, it's not like there's other songs that are like that Brett song. Like that's really it. The rest of them sort of resume the previous idea of just like, you know, catchy, you know, pop rock songs with wrestlers talking about their gimmicks, you know?
Exactly.
And now on to the next one. Another one in the vein of wrestler sings about gimmick. Of course, this is The Man in Black by who else? The Undertaker. As Walt noted, the aforementioned dead wrestler who kept kayfabe forever and now is singing about being scary or whatever.
Press play?
Yes.
All right.
Oh, you get this sick guitar lick to start it out.
Love it.
Like we said, this sounds to me a lot like, you know, like Bat Dance vibes, Adams, what the hell, Adams, whatever. I already forget the name of it. Adams beat.
Just for you. Dance with the Taker. Rest in peace.
Yep, there we go. Another one that really pivots hard from the first go. Like now becomes like, what? We're having a good time.
Okay.
Oh my god! Listen to this keyboard. It sounds great. We should tell friend of the show, Kev, we're going. We should send him this album and say, please, can you guys play one of these songs with your video game music band? Like I think there's a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of video gamey elements. There's some crossover there.
I'm so glad you just said that.
Was that what you were thinking too?
Well, when I first heard this, the first thing that came to my mind was Sonic 2, the Mystic Cave Zone.
Does it sound like that little, like, does the keyboard remind you of that?
Well, just like using the music, the keyboard to kind of like elicit that feeling of like dark, deep, mysterious, like a lot of heavy bass.
Yeah.
It's I can't. I'm not going to describe it here, but like that was the first thing that came to my mind was like
so
that Sonic track that from Sonic 2. Just like
I think this one is the most video game because I think just like the boop boop, the way they're doing, every note's very distinct on this too. You know, like they're like definitely, which I feel like is very 8 and 16-bit video game music style thing to just play, like to have a little bit of background, but a lot of times just beep boop 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 boop. Like this one definitely is not.
That organ is the organ's very distinct.
Yes,
but it's also like they're using it like a fun instrument, so it's like that's pitch perfect. If anything, I almost feel like they could have leaned more into that mystic dead man space with the instruments. But maybe this is a good balance. I don't know. You could
make the case that this is the best song on the album too. This is this like is the most like fun and like I think like interesting one. Like there's a lot to do with Taker. I feel like it's because Undertaker has a good character, so it's like okay, he's dead. There's death. There's like scary. Like I said, there's a lot of tones and music that you can easily pluck out there. Where everyone else, it's like okay, Tatanka's a Native American. Like oh god, all right. Like
right.
It's harder to I think sum up everybody else in musically, but Taker there's more to grab onto there.
Yeah, it's very distinct. This stands out for all the right reasons in this versus some of the tracks kind of really get lost where I'm like, wait a minute, didn't I just hear this? Only
you're like, or like Boss Man and Duggan, like what's the difference? Who cares? You know?
Yeah.
Like, these Nasty Boys, like all these guys are nothing. But yeah, Taker's a logical choice here, and he does great.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful song. That one would genuinely go on my running playlist or whatever if it was on Spotify. I have the album on CD somewhere in my house. I have no idea where it is, but I need to go find it now.
Oh, I thought you said cassette.
I had it on cassette when I was a child, and then an ex-girlfriend bought it for me on CD at one point.
Oh my god!
Because I kept talking about it, so she was like, I guess I'll buy you WrestleMania. And now, if you look on eBay, WrestleMania the album on CD is like $200 too. So
wow, okay. Well,
so if I want, I'm not going to sell it, but if I wanted to sell it, I can make it cool $200. But it is not for sale when I find it.
So when we watch that episode of WWE Treasures,
with the guy who got fired,
where Mark Calloway is going to your house, yeah,
with
exactly.
AJ Francis or whatever his name was.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, he's not
Top Dollar, whatever.
Yeah, Top Dollar. That's right. All right, well, 2 more to go on this show. 2 other really, really good ones. The next one is where we fly from track 6, Man in Black, to track 7, Speaking from the Heart. And the singer here, the artist here, Walt, we've covered him before on the show. We've heard his music before. It's the Macho Man Randy Savage. And I think you noted, I think there's a little bit of crossover here. You can see where Be a Man came from when you hear Macho's initial foray into music.
Not the first music themed episode on this podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
Out of 200, not the first Randy Savage music themed episode on this podcast.
Who would have thought? Macho Man is such a talented musician.
Yep. Here we go.
The tower of power, too sweet to be sour, funky like a monkey. Ooh, yeah.
Great start.
Isn't that Dusty Rhodes' thing?
What? Funky like a monkey?
Yeah.
I think so. But, maybe Dusty let him do it.
Yeah. While he was booking WCW.
Stand back. Dig it.
Macho Man is also definitely trying to sing a little bit here.
A little bit.
Not sing, but
okay. My favorite part of the entire album right now.
This part?
Yeah, except they say macho, man.
Yeah, it's really weird they say.
Why would they say that?
Yeah, macho.
Like macho.
Maybe it just sounds better like syllable wise to get the lines to go together.
Okay. So Macho Man is saying a lot of weird stuff here.
He is. He starts talking about the planets at one point, I think, doesn't he?
Yeah. Talks about all of them. It's like weird inspiration, like it's like, I'm here for you. I'm here for your dreams.
Yes. He does say a lot of stuff where you're like, okay, are you my friend, Macho Man? Are you like coming to help me in a time of crisis? There you go.
He'll help you find the light at the end of the tunnel. Like,
Oh, and that's the part with his theme. While they do the dun na na na, the little build up part. They do use part of his theme, like a very tiny part.
You're right.
And Mean Gene's there, as you said, doing his thing.
I will say this chorus is extremely catchy.
Is this your favorite song, you think?
I think it might be. I listened to it several times.
I am your friend. I am the Macho Man.
It's like, I know that there's a kid product, but this does feel a little extra.
Freak out. It does feel like they sort of let Macho, like they gave him the beat and they're like, okay, just like talk over it, like, and he just stream of consciousness went for 3 minutes. So like, got it, great, done.
We're together forever. Like, this is, you got the music bug here. I'm feeling that.
I wonder what he thought he meant. Like, I guess he was a good guy again by this point, right? So
yeah,
I guess he was just like, I'm just doing some weird, like, I'm your buddy, good guy stuff. Like, it's very strange.
Oh, here we go.
The moon, the stars, Venus, Pluto, Saturn.
Pluto, Saturn. Like, he's not even saying the planets right.
He had a way of saying things that no one else does, and it's so unique and hilarious,
Yeah, I almost regret not doing this for Macho Month a few months ago, because this is just like,
I'm just happy this is going to earn its way into your heart and be a song you might listen to frequently. That makes me very happy.
I mean, this
I don't care which
is
one
catchy.
it is. If any of these caught on with you, one of them, that fills me with joy.
Yeah, well,
they're also doing a hoe there. That's not Macho's. Hacksaw's hoe.
Yeah, that's
a really good one. I don't dislike that one at all. It does, the music, I would say, is the most like sort of monotonous and very similar to the other. Like, it doesn't really go anywhere, especially after Man in Black, which is doing something a little different. This is really generic, but Macho himself just brings it to another level, I think.
The chorus is just catchy as fuck,
and the chorus is great, and all the singers. It's fantastic. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
That one had 4 writers for some reason. I don't really know why. I guess it was so good. They're like, we need a lot of writers on the Macho song.
Well, I mean, he developed a lot of industry contacts, it seems, during this time. So that 10 years or 8 years later, he, hey, I got a guy who can make some weird beats.
All right, well, we're only going to do one more because we're going to skip the other ones. The next one is Tatanka's song, which is called Tatanka Native American. No, thank you. We're going to skip that for lots of reasons. It's a bad song, and we're all set. And then we're going to skip the one afterwards, the final song on the U.S. version, which is Hard Times by Big Boss Man. Also not very good. Who cares about Boss Man? I think they're both easily skippable, right?
I'd say so. I
mean, they don't stand out.
I will say the Boss Man one actually does repurpose his theme into a new song, which, again, I don't know if that was the point of any of this. It probably wasn't, given what we just listened to with the Macho Man. But like, I don't know. Like, I mean, there is like some. It just seems like there's something intentional versus Tatanka. This is just a song about Tatanka for no particular reason.
It's the one song, like the Perfect one also does similar stuff with it, just literally his Perfect theme for a lot of it. But the Boss Man one it would be the cleanest if you took it out and made it his new, like, this is his permanent, entrance music. No one would bat an eye. It'd be like, oh, sure, of course. The other ones obviously are a little different and are certainly not meant to operate in that way. So that is good for Boss Man, I guess. I don't really know. It doesn't really. It leads to a unmemorable song, I would say.
Right. Well, with the Mr. Perfect one, you'll get that itch of like, oh, this is this wrestler's theme song done differently and remixed so that it makes it into a song. Yeah. So we're gonna talk about the Boss Man's iteration through Mr. Perfect.
Sure. And the Perfect one is fun because it's perfect too. So you're like, it's
exactly.
Just, it's like we love Mr. Perfect. All right, It's called I'm Perfect. So they did not try very hard at that part, but that's okay.
Yep. There we go.
Yeah, here you go. You get a little slightly remixed version of Perfect's theme.
Yep. I like this too because you'll hear at the end they kind of like bookend the song with the actual theme.
Yeah, but these musical preambles are very interesting, though. It's like, for a kid, you're sitting there like, okay, get to the meat. Like, all these take 30 seconds to get where they're going, which is interesting.
Right. Uh, Super Steam is pretty great.
Put a little, like some 90s, like, little rap jingle, like hip hop jingle thing here.
Yeah. Yeah. See, this is nice.
Yeah. It's low key. It doesn't stand out,
Like, I like that they tried. There we go.
It doesn't get any better than this. Bottom line. Bottom line.
They do a lot of that too. They just do that.
Only one Mr. Perfect, and everybody knows it's me. The greatest wrestler, the greatest athlete, the World Wrestling Federation has ever produced. Mr. Perfect.
Yeah.
Mr. Perfect.
So they didn't try that hard with this.
No. I will also say, and listening to it right now, like, this does kind of suck. It's stuck in my head. It's catchy, and I think it's catchy in its stupidness, Like, I remember just like I remember singing that in my head when I was like a kid, just thinking, because it's just funny. Like, it's so straightforward, and like there's just really like I can see why it had one writer, because then there's not a lot of writing to do.
Right. Yeah. Also, the theme song was already created, so like you didn't have to really try that hard to start from scratch.
No, it does. It's number 6 of the 6 we played, I'll say, for sure.
Yeah, it's just notable because it's perfect, like you said.
And like I said, and like the little hip hop elements that gets to the wicka wicka wow, and that does not go with the rest of the song at all.
No, it does not.
It's like a sound effect just to jazz it up. Like, let's just drop a little wicka wicka wow in there.
This was like a instance where I'm like, yeah, this is what this album could have been. It's just remixes of the wrestlers' music.
I think that's a really good point. I think that's why it stood out to me, even as a kid. I'm sure I would have liked remixes of the themes just fine at 8-year-olds, but I think it's why I listened to it in the future too, because so much of it is not that, and what you just described is such an easier route for them to go.
Yeah.
But instead, I'm like, wait, that's somewhat true on a couple of songs, but most of them are like original compositions that are doing something totally different. I think that's what's fascinated me for so many years. Like, why, Like that lingering question is so much more interesting.
Yeah, because like they've done this before in wrestling, where it's like, hey, here's the original theme, and then like years later they would like put like a more modern spin on it. Like
you said with the Austin Disturbed song is a very good example. All the iterations of the Austin theme, right?
Yeah, or like even The Rock had a remix at one point, or like LOD 2000 became a thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
of course, LOD 2000.
No, but like I said, this is the bookend with his theme again, which is cool.
It is great. I do like that
to a point, but like ultimately, I like this could have been if Mr. Perfect's like 2000, like when he came back for a short stint, like this could have been a version of that theme, more modernized. And but also too, then why are we even modernizing music? Because like the classics it's like anything that's like a nostalgia play. You want it to feel like like remixing Hulk Hogan's theme would be a terrible idea.
Oh my god, yeah, and like every time I watch an old, using the Austin example again, anytime I watch an old Austin match and he comes out to a bad version of his theme, I get like frustrated. Like, why would they do this? Like, I get that sometimes they wanted to sell WWF Music Volume 12 or whatever, and they just were like, let's make a new Austin theme. But don't make it his actual theme song. Like, everybody wants the one we all want, And fortunately, they went back, and Rock's case too. Like, mostly the Rock. I mean, the Rock theme now is interesting in its own way, but for the most part, those two guys, they went back to the ones that work, because that's the whole point of theme music. And like, this ties in a little bit to what's happening in wrestling right now in 2025 in WWE. All these themes are terrible, Like, what the most common thing I heard on the Rumble was like, oh, these themes suck, Like, what even are these anymore? Like, it's just sometimes there's an emphasis on music that works, and sometimes they just don't care, and it's such a, when they don't care, it really shows, because it's such an important part of who these people are.
As evident as our theme draft from a few years ago.
Sure.
Why theme music matters and presentation matters, but
and aside for this, because this does largely stand on its own as a strange outlier, but like you said, there's even the parts that do like this, there's a care put into it, the themes and all the stuff back then that it's just sometimes not always there. So the wrestling and music, it's a fascinating, it's it's been such a big part of it for so long now, and sometimes it's good when they put effort into it because it matters. And this just there's a lot of room, there's a lot of wins there, and like it's and this I think a key example of a weird win for wrestling
Yeah.
in the UK at least.
Missed opportunity not having Jim Johnson on this.
Perhaps, yeah. I don't know what he was really doing at that point, but I assume he was already in the ranks, right?
I thought so. I mean, I thought he made a lot of this music.
This is definitely the time, like you said, the themes, like looking at the people on the tracks, like Brett obviously had his, like Brett has his theme at this point. Taker, I don't even know what Taker's like 90s theme sounds like, but like we go away from the Perfect and the Macho, which is like, like Macho is literally just being the graduation song and Perfect sort of being low key. Like we're about to hit the era of a little more thought put into the themes themselves too, like themes that are stand out a little bit compared to like, the 80s, which is a little more generic in its presentation. Although there are songs like Dusty's, which is an outlier of big distinctness.
Yeah.
So
We're boss bands, even.
yeah, we're boss bands. Yeah, that's true. Boss Man, one of the rare job characters that actually had a theme that was interesting. Instead of Repo Man, it just went Repo Man.
Wow.
Which is not.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to go down to rabbit hole about Repo Man. But...
if we do a themes draft, if we do another themes draft, I definitely want to do like most forgotten themes, and I will put Repo Man's on there just because the guy going Repo Man.
Yeah. I mean,
it's
that's perfect for Repo Man, the most forgettable character.
That's right. So, what do you give this album on the whole? Now that you've listened to it for the first time, what are your thoughts? Are there, besides Macho, are there other songs that you enjoy that you're going to listen to again?
Possibly. I mean, I will say that this isn't unremarkable or unmemorable. This is not an affront to music or art. It's ridiculous, but I think that's okay because it's such a time and a place and pitch perfect 90s nostalgia thing. I don't know, like artifact, I guess. As if this is like 200 years old or 1,000 years old. But like, so some of the stuff's catchy, some of the stuff's interesting, and some of the stuff's iconic because you do hear, I mean, if Linda McMahon came out to WrestleMania tomorrow, that would be the song that is played for better or for worse.
That's right.
So do I have to give it a grade? Can I say it's a treat?
If you want to, I mean, I certainly wouldn't stop you if that's the way you're feeling.
Yeah, I would say treat.
I think I'm glad to hear that. Obviously, I think it's a treat too. I think there are definitely like holes in it, and there are parts that are nostalgia driven for me in the sense that when I listen back, like the Perfect song being a great example, where in my head I'm like, oh, it's so fun. And I listen again, I'm like, oh, it's kind of boring and like it doesn't really stand out. But there's stuff like Macho and there's stuff like Brad and there's stuff that does have character, and does have, it's just fun, dumb music. Like you said, it's a very time and a place thing, and that they wouldn't ever do this again for obvious reasons. And I think most people wouldn't want to hear it from any other time. It would be. It was like a weird, like wrestling does, like quickly becomes, rap metal and becomes like not serious necessarily, but like takes itself, tries to be more edgy, obviously, and more intense. And this is from that era when it was still dumb and playful and ostensibly for children, And this album, I feel like, tries to capture that sense while still being a bunch of adults trying to do some weird shit. And like, it's just the juxtaposition of all that produces something that's strange and unique. And with some of it stands the test of time.
Yeah, it's enjoyable.
Yeah,
if nothing else.
I'll take enjoyable.
Yeah,
that's
was not a waste of my time. Great.
Well,
I was saying this via text. I'm like, I don't necessarily listen to music when I work out ever. It's usually podcasts or just I'm watching a show or whatever. I mean, anything but music, really. And I was just like, wow, this is strange. I feel like pumped up by this music while I'm working out. This is so weird. I didn't know how to respond.
Well, I appreciate letting us do it for the 200th episode, and I'm glad you gave it a chance, and I'm glad some of it stuck in your ears a little bit. That makes me happy.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll be a earworm for our listeners. So.
Yeah, it's all on YouTube. Like we said, sadly, you can't find some of the really good songs on Spotify and put them on your workout playlist or whatever yourself, but it's all available on YouTube. So if you want to hunt them all down, if you liked what you heard today, go give it a listen. It's fun. It's dumb. It's very enjoyable. And thank you all everyone who's been listening for all these 200 episodes, who's come with us, maybe the whole way, but even for a chunk of the way, we appreciate it a ton. It's been super fun, Walt. It's been great to do this with you, and I'm
Likewise.
proud of us for getting this far. It's been, I think we never thought we'd get this far for various reasons. In part because wrestling content can only go so far, but as long as you're doing albums and other weird shit, there's a lot of things you can unlock along the way.
We've really, really stretched the concept of wrestling, wrestling. I don't even know what content.
Yep.
pretty far and wide. So,
which I think you have to do, and has been, it's mostly fun. Like we're not pulling teeth to get it done. We're not doing things that are explicitly bad for the most part, just for the sake of putting out an episode. We're trying to find things that are, I think, somewhat enjoyable, hopefully, to us and to the listeners. So I think
there's been a lot of bad, though. The
bad.
Percentages of 200 times bad is not insubstantial.
Bad, but good intention, I guess. Or like, well, there's something fun buried beneath this. I think that's what we always try. We always try and see the bright side. I'm like, well, there's a nugget here of joy.
And then there's like Chronicle, and then
yes, and then there is Chronicle. But we outlasted Chronicle. Chronicle's gone, and we're still here, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, suck it, WWE. I guess I was gonna say the WWE Network, but also something that is no longer here.
Yeah, we outlasted the whole network. You're right, and we might outlast Peacock having WWE too. So many eras that have come and gone, and we still make this show. So
yep,
pretty great.
So we did it.
Yep, we did it. And again,
longest
thank you all.
Bi-weekly episodic wrestling content podcast. I think.
Yeah, with no income or with no revenue being generated. So I guess in that sense, it has not been that hard to continue it compared to
Pro bono,
$1 million streaming platform. But still, we outlasted them, so fuck them. We won.
Yep, we did it.
We did it. Well, thank you all so much again, as always. If you want to hear our old episodes, you can find them all 199 of them before this, plus some bonuses. You can find them at awesometruth.libsyn.com. And you can subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Our stuff is there, and all of our episodes and our new ones that are still coming. Walt, there's still more to do. So please subscribe, and we'll keep filling you up with good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great to do these with you all. It's so much fun. The show is still a blast. So
yeah,
teamwork and friendship.
Yep. Once again,
all about. It does. Thank you all so much for listening. And remember, the truth will set you free.